Hey, good morning, Judy.
Hi, Moss.
Woo, happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. One of many.
Yeah, we've had quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah, right. Hey, everybody, welcome Valentine's Day to you.
Good morning.
Hey, Judy, this is just a random thought.
Uh-huh.
You know, we've had this
That's dangerous. You're random.
random, I wish I could think coherently. We've been under this. Do you like my glasses, by the way?
No.
No, okay, all right. Let's see what we can do. Anyway,
Okay. Yeah.
people, including us,
Mm-hmm.
have been in under COVID for
Yeah.
almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know a number of clients and friends who have not gone out. I mean, they've just been together. I'm not talking,
Intense.
families are terrible, no question
That's
about it,
very
under
intense.
solitary confinement
Uh-huh.
conditions. But
Couples.
I'm thinking about couples on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is usually a day to celebrate
Yeah.
your closeness, your relationship. But do you think it's possible
Mm-hmm.
that the COVID has driven some couples into frenzy, into craziness, into thinking, what am I doing with this person?
Oh, I'm
into
sure
divorce.
I'm sure that's true.
You think so?
I'm sure that it's led to divorces, couples therapy.
Oh, we like that.
Sure, yeah, it's just not having all the things we usually have to sort of disperse some of our more
Right.
intense feelings,
Right.
activities, things like that. People have been precluded from doing for a long time, and I think it makes some people I know from clients I hear, they're just irritable.
Yeah.
They're tired of it.
Right, tired of each
You
other.
know, and sometimes I think people take it out on each other.
I
when
think so.
there's- Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we really do need space
Mm-hmm.
in order to keep the interest and the patience. And too much of a good thing
Yeah.
isn't necessarily too much of a good thing. You know?
A good thing. Yeah.
So in those instances, familiarity could breed some contempt,
Mm-hmm.
not contentment. So I think we need the
Very
right
clever.
balance.
Very
Is that
clever.
good?
Yeah,
Is that
you're
good?
really on for Valentine's Day.
I like that one. I like that.
Okay.
Anyway, we have a topic today.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're in this program
Yeah.
of 10 habits of highly successful couples.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the most part, it's based upon the research, marital research, gathered by Brett Atkinson around these 10 habits. And I think what he did was he looked at, with many researchers, Gottman and others, what are the ways in which successful couples have. It's kind of reminds me. This may not be a great analogy, but I like to play golf. But I can't play golf only with a driver.
Mm-hmm.
So in my golf bag, I have about 12 clubs. So each club has a different function.
Mm-hmm.
So these skills are like 10 different resources that couples can use once they get a feel for them.
Yeah.
And
Like a toolkit.
Like a tool, that's good. I like that. It's a toolkit, carpenter's toolkit. So this is a kind of a partnership toolkit to help you think about, become aware of what triggers you, where you get into upset, maybe take it out on your partner, really trigger your partner. Because I see a lot of people get triggered, Judy, and then their partners get triggered, and then they go into what we call collision communication, where they're banging their heads against each other. You notice that too?
I've never heard that term
I know.
before. Collision
But that's
communication. I like that.
That's another good one.
That's clever. That's
too good
very
today.
clever. Yeah. Okay. Sure, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even done it.
You have done that
I
with
have.
moi?
Yes.
I wouldn't bring
I'm
it
sure
up,
more than once.
but I have noticed it.
Have you noticed?
I'll keep it under
It's
the
nice
rug
of
then.
you not to mention it to me.
So we all do that.
Uh-huh.
We all do that. So anyway, today's topic,
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of, remember when you were a kid and you had these the kid magazines that come to in school?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the
Oh,
magazine.
Scholastic Digest or
Yeah.
something like that.
And often they would have a cartoon of, say, a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and the directions were there were 10 monkeys or 10 coconuts in the tree.
Yes.
How many can you find?
Right, I love doing that.
Did you?
Yeah. I even like it now.
I do too. I do too. There's another saying: don't judge a book by its cover.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think that means in terms of relationships?
I think it means you can't always tell on the surface of things what's really going on
Yeah.
underneath.
Right.
Sometimes we don't even know,
Yeah.
I think, what's going on underneath our own reactions
Yes.
to things
Yes.
or our own behavior, unless we kind of look more deeply or have a tool to do that with.
Right. Okay.
Talking about tools,
Yeah.
like how do we look more deeply at our own behavior or
Right.
for a partner at their behavior?
Yeah, and I think what we're going to talk about today is really key in talking about
Yeah.
finding what's really under the surface, under the upset, and I think it's called identify and explain what's really at stake.
Okay.
So, do you remember when we did the I think pairs training or imago training for couples?
Yes.
I think whoever we learned from described the iceberg.
Yes.
So this is called, what we're going to talk to you about today is don't be a Titanic. Don't be a Titanic.
Uh-huh.
So in terms of, remember the Titanic? We had the iceberg over here. We had the Titanic, and it was very arrogant. It thought it could do anything it wanted. It banged into the iceberg, and within a very short period of time, the boat sank. And many times we have relationships that bang into something and they sink. So I'm going to call that the Titanic effect.
I like that.
So that we have an iceberg model.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember, you want to share your thoughts about the iceberg model for handling an upset? That's what it's called.
Well, I don't remember it exactly, but I know.
I'll be glad to correct you.
Oh, thank you. You're so helpful. I think what you're talking about is, so when looking at an iceberg, you see the top part of the iceberg, and you might assume that that's all there is. That the tip of the iceberg is actually all there is.
Oh, right.
But in fact, icebergs are probably larger, volume-wise or whatever, underneath the surface of the ocean than what you can see on the top. So there's things underneath holding up the iceberg, the part we see, that we're not aware of.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's good.
You know,
That's
I
good.
think when the Titanic hit the iceberg, it actually hit the underneath part.
Yeah.
What did the damage? So I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So if my behavior is just the tip of the iceberg, then how it looks to you, to me, may not be all there is.
Okay.
Underneath,
Right.
may not be all there is. That's
So let's say the tip of the iceberg, and I think you're right. The tip of the iceberg is actually quite attractive, but underneath are tons and tons of mass. It's like a mountain underneath.
Yes.
So you don't want to judge a book by its cover. It looks it looks like the boat could easily knock over the iceberg from the tip, one that's sticking out of the middle of the ocean. So, but if you bump into it, you're bumping into 100 tons, 200 tons, whatever it is. It's much more powerful and heavy than the boat. So let's call the tip of the iceberg the upset.
Okay.
You spend too much money. I don't like it. That's another one.
Why do you never take out the trash?
Oh. Okay.
That's not aimed at you, because you
Okay.
do take out the trash. But
that's
a kind of complaint
Right.
that somebody might, or why do you always eat the last whatever, but you don't tell me, or you don't put it on the shopping list, and you leave the box in the refrigerator, so I think there's more there.
Right. How come, another tip of the iceberg, how come I'm the one who always has to take care of the kids? I work just as hard as you. What are you, a princess?
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. There's a million of them.
You will not run out of tips of icebergs, complaints. They're part of human nature. But under the tip of the iceberg, under the tip of the complaint, it's a complaint, there's something going on. There's in the middle, it's like a frustration or a disappointment or a hurt.
Or an unfulfilled expectation.
Well, let's kind of imagine at the tip there's the complaint.
Okay.
Right under it immediately you feel frustrated, angry, disappointed.
Yeah.
But under that
Yeah.
is an unmet need, desire, or wish. So at the very bottom of the iceberg, if we could ever get to the bottom of the iceberg, you have what's really at stake. What's not judging a book by its cover, but really getting into the book, so to speak, and finding all 10 coconuts, and not suffering the Titanic effect.
Okay.
You experience I think I know what's really going on for me. And if I could actually express to you what's at stake or draw you out, then we won't get stuck with the Titanic effect of hitting the iceberg and smashing.
Well, I think that's probably so. The more closely we can reach what actually the issue is for the person with the complaint or the upset, the more likely it is that we'll be able to address it directly.
And I think you and I would agree, that most of the time when couples come to see us, they're stuck with the Titanic and the iceberg. Someone has a complaint, the other person gets triggered by the complaint because they take it personally, and then they retaliate with a counter complaint, and then they have collision conversations. Power struggle. And you know what happens when you have a power struggle?
Tell me.
You sink.
Ah.
You don't like each other. You say, particularly during the pandemic, my God, it's hard enough to live with a person and not get out that much. But when you have these irritations and you feel like you're being attacked or criticized, it's like it's very disruptive to your sense of well-being. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could give you a headache.
It could give you a headache. Could give you a stomach ache. Could give you a muscle ache. So pay attention to those pains, friends and colleagues. Those pains in your body could be symptomatic of upset and not taking care of yourself, or you being taken care of. So what we're looking at now is getting to what's really at stake. We want to get away from the complaint, appreciate the frustration, hurt, but really get to the underlying need. Because if you could do that, that's like striking gold and coming back really emotionally rich.
Wow. So how
How?
are people to do that? That's the big question then, right?
Oh, you would ask that.
Now that people are aware that, often what comes first with a complaint is not really the deep issue that's going on underneath. So now what do we do about that?
Well, this is the crux of the matter. I think that's really hard.
Yeah.
I think this really takes a lot of discipline. That's why we're putting this in the second half of our habits for successful coupling. Because if you do the others, like stop judging and be curious, or stand your ground without putting the other person down. The third one was seek to understand first. The fourth was give equal regard. The other person's opinion is just as powerful and important as yours. And give assurance that even though you're in an argument, you may want to stop and say, look, I know we're struggling with this, but tell you the truth, I really love you, I adore you, we'll get through this. But this one that we're talking about now, if you can do any of those five, and think about what's really going on. I hear the complaint, but what's under the complaint? I'll give you an example. I have a couple, and the husband, second marriage for both, and the husband likes to be with his friends. He's an extrovert, and the wife is more of an introvert, so she prefers to be alone or with a few close friends, and definitely with her husband. But when he goes out and stays a little too late or doesn't call her, she feels hurt and disappointed and untaken care of. That's the middle of the iceberg. But when he comes home, she doesn't go to the bottom of the iceberg and say, I'm so glad you're home. I really missed you. I'm so glad you're home. You're the most important person in my life. Did you have a good time? So she doesn't stay with that feeling, because she'll be much more generous, I think, if she spoke to him that way. Instead, she says things like, where the hell were you? All you do is think about yourself. I'm here all alone, and you do this all the time. I'm sick and tired of you just being arrogant, thinking about yourself. And he's a very independent guy, so when she speaks to him this way, you know how he responds?
Well, I would imagine he'd sort of get his back up and like, who the heck are you to
Yeah.
tell me what I can do? And
Yeah, I'm not your child.
yeah,
Don't tell me what to do. And then they now have a collision conversation. The Titanic effect. See? So I'm coaching them on really getting to the underlying hurt. Her saying, like, I was really disappointed, that you didn't call. I'm not putting this on you to blame you, but I notice when you don't keep in touch with me, my feelings get hurt. I'm pretty sensitive that way. And I think what's really at stake here is I just miss you and love you. And sometimes I get worried when you're out. You might find another woman more attractive. I can't even believe I'm saying this. It's so embarrassing. You might find someone more attractive and you might leave me. Because I think I have some abandonment issues.
that's deep.
That is really deep.
That's deep.
But that's what's at stake. If you can get to what's really at stake. Look, we can't give you an easy answer to this. This is a tough one. There's tons of books and YouTubes on this. This is what Judy and I do. We help people get to under the iceberg, help the Titanic move away, not be the Titanic, and get to the underlying issue at stake so that we can go into what we call couples dialogue. Remember the couples dialogue?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
Use it all the time.
Yeah, you sound really upset. Tell me more about it. As a way of if I'm on the receiving end of her criticism or complaint, not taking it personally. See, she's the one upset. So why should I, if she has poison ivy, why should I ask her to rub her poison ivy all over me? She can't help it. She's itching. So she's just out of control in her story and in her complaint. But if I have the ability to take a deep breath and say, wow, you sound really upset. Tell me more about it.
I like that poison ivy analogy.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's clever.
I got 3 of them today now.
Really?
I like this. This makes my day.
You're a winner.
You draw the person out, and hopefully you seek to understand, which is one of the other skills. Judy, I think I can really understand what bothers you when I put the food back in the refrigerator, not boxed in or wrapped well.
Yeah.
Am I right?
But yes.
Okay.
But it occurs to me, just to emphasize what you said, it's like a really important, if you want to call it a skill, is not to take things personally.
Yeah.
Because most of us do.
Yeah.
And then once we take it personally, we get reactive and we're sort of off and running.
I think you're right.
But if we can prevent ourselves from doing that,
yeah.
if we can take unemotionally a step back and say, oh, Moss is upset,
I see.
let me find out more about what's going
Right,
on there,
right.
without my getting the poison ivy on me.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important step you have to take to be able to listen and be curious.
Okay, to say, I feel like I'm taking this personally, but my partner's just really upset, and I don't really know what she or he is really upset about, but I need to self-regulate myself. So maybe I need to take a step back, calm myself down, and then come back and say, hey, Judy, you were really upset. You sounded really critical, like I was really doing something to disappoint you. Can we talk about it? What's going on?
Yeah.
Or you could come back later and say, hey, look, I'm glad you stepped away. I know sometimes I could say things in a way that you get triggered and our conversation sinks, like the Titanic. But I think I'm calm enough, but I do want to tell you what's at stake and what's on my mind. Now I can listen to that.
Right.
But
either way, it requires a lot of self-management.
Yeah, and all it really requires is one person
Yeah,
self-managing.
Right.
It's one person can stay grounded and navigate and not get triggered. Well, you will get triggered, but not take it personally and not slip into counterattack, counter-criticism. You can't talk to me that way. And say, wait a minute, something's going on with my partner. Maybe you can't do it at the moment of the criticism because it does feel like an attack. But if you can step away, take a breath and say, what was that about? And come back with some curiosity to go into. Help me understand, is that really the issue?
Right. It's that whole self-management piece, which is so important.
Yeah.
In order to be able to get to asking, tell me what that was about.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's the bottom line of all this?
That I love you.
See, that's real important. To maintain the focus, we love each other. Our intention is to keep that going, even though we bump into icebergs once in a while.
I think the bottom line is what we're talking about today, what we've been talking about in the past number of weeks, these are tools that are available for couples.
Yeah.
If they take the time to learn them and to use them,
Right.
really work.
Right. Yeah.
You know, help your relationship stay.
Right. Because for the most part, I don't know anyone who was taught this as a child, teenager, even young adult.
No.
It's not taught in the schools. Often my clients, maybe yours too, we have some success. Because we have to, as therapists, we have to have the patience to hang in with them. You know?
And they with us.
And they with us. You know, yeah, because if we're not making, it doesn't feel to them like they're making progress after a number of months. It could feel like I'm letting them down, and then I'm going to get triggered, or we're going to get triggered. But it's a discipline. Lots of books. There are lots of therapists who do this kind of work. You can go on YouTube and just type in how to communicate with an upset when you're having an upset. How to keep love intact, but have your upset. You're entitled to your upset, but you're not entitled to put the other person down. But you got to keep the intention of, I'm going to keep love alive no matter what. Even though I feel terrible and I feel like I'm being abused in the moment. That's my story. Instead of, I want to get to, my God, I love this person and I don't really, really know what's going on, but I want to get to what's really at stake and not judge a book by its cover.
Nicely said.
Makes sense? Makes sense. Does that enough?
Well, it makes sense to me sitting here. I don't have an upset. But
Yeah, that's true. When you're in the upset, forget all this.
Yep.
All we can do is give you the information, talk to you about it. If you have any questions, you're welcome to give us a call. Whatever. All right. So listen, happy Valentine's Day with somebody you're ready or in love with, or somebody you might meet today or this week. Keep an open mind and open heart.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day.